Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Inside the Pigskin. My name is Scott Morgan, your host, along with Candy Ebling. Welcome aboard, Candy.
Thanks, Scott.
Rick Turdy, I'm going to go right to left.
Hey guys, how are you?
All right, Travis Holmes, welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Thanks for being here. Smoking Jeremy, more one-liners and politicians tell lies. I'll tell you, that's good stuff. All right.
Happy to be here.
Yeah.
Good to see everybody.
Incorporate politics and might as well incorporate your one-liners so we keep it a clean show. Welcome back. And last but not least, my running back, Mel Farr Jr. Welcome back, Mel.
Great to be back, guys.
Well, we have a very loaded broadcast, but I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Okay, I'm going to dedicate this Inside the Pigskin to my father-in-law, Fred Ebling, who passed away at the age of 80 on Sunday. And, you know, if anybody knew the word laughter better than Fred Ebling, I'd like to find somebody, because that man was a great father-in-law and a role model to me. And when you talk about the type of individual he is, great family man, great role model. We're going to be leaving there for Wisconsin on Friday. So, Pops, if you're up there, your daughter and I are dedicating this show to you to know that, you know what, they don't make him any better than you, Pops. We love you very much, and we look forward to paying our respects in person one more time. So there you go, Candy. Anything you want to add to it?
He was an amazing father who is going to be missed by many. He was a beloved teacher. He taught math in high school, so he touched the lives of many people. He was also an usher at for the Milwaukee Brewers, and he also was he also worked at a liquor store for many years. So he wore very many hats because he provided well for his family, and he's loved and missed by many.
Yeah, sure is. And like I said, we're glad to get their holidays and be around the family for the whole time. In life, you don't live with regrets, and we certainly didn't when we made that trek to Wisconsin there. Well, we have a pretty interesting broadcast tonight. I'll give one position. It's a rare opportunity to talk about that's tight ends. And then we have some history and some coaching updates as well. So I hope you can stay with us for the entire broadcast. So with that said, okay, Travis Holmes brought this one up to me, so I'm very intrigued about where he was going with this. He talked about who's getting left out, the top 5 tight ends ever. Right. So Travis, I want you to give a little bit of a brief overview on where you were going with this particular suggestion.
Well, it was a conversation that actually kind of popped up when, you know, all the Super Bowl coverage was happening with Travis Kelce, that a lot of people were just automatically saying, all right, he's the best who's ever done it. He's the best who's ever done it. And I'm like, all right, I think that may be, you know, arguable, but at least if he's not number one, he's number 1 or 2. All right, well, we have a few guys, and at that number 5 spot starts getting some real competition when you're like, who's the best top 5 ever between all the, you know, great tight ends and the different spans of how the game's been played over, you know, these last 50 years, between Travis Kelce, you know, Tony Gonzalez, Gronk, Shannon Sharp, Antonio Gates, Jason Witten, and someone mentioned Kellen Winslow Sr. earlier. There's a lot of options. And that starts getting some real competition once you get to that 3 to 5 spot. So I just wanted to get the gang's take.
All right, so we'll just go over the list real quickly. The ones that you mentioned here were Tony Gonzalez, Rob Gronkowski, 2 great tight ends, Jason Witten, Antonio Gates, Shannon Sharp, and a couple I threw out there were Charlie Sanders and Kellen Winslow Sr. Real quickly, does anybody want to add to this list before we talk about the business at hand?
Mike Ditka, Ozzie Newsome, Greg Olson.
John Mackey.
Yep, right there with them. Jimmy Graham, Dave Casper, Jackie Smith, Ben Coates,
George Kittle,
Shannon Sharp,
Keith Jackson,
George Kittle,
Heath Miller.
See, we got you really thinking, Mr. Bacon. There's an awful lot of bacon and beef with that list. So there you have it. Talking tight ends. All right.
What about they said he was all world. Was Russ Francis?
I remember.
He didn't make the top 20 list through Google. That's sourcing all the different. They're going by
Mark
100 different web sources. From top to bottom, it goes Rob Gronkowski, Tony Gonzalez, Travis Kelce, Antonio Gates, Shannon Sharp, Mike Ditka, George Kittle, Zach Ertz, Jason Witten, Kellen Winslow Sr., Ozzie Newsome, John Mackey, Vernon Davis, Greg Olson, Jimmy Graham, Dave Casper, Jackie Smith, Charlie Sanders, Ben Coates, Dallas Clark, Jeremy Shockey, Todd Christensen, Keith Jackson, and Heath Miller. That's their top 20 of all time.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say this: the game's changed. With the tight end position, and really, Kellen Winslow was like really the first tight end that I can remember that was flexed out, and that was in more of a wide receiver, stance than being lined up on the end of the line. And so, to me, he's the one that kind of started this evolution, and then it's kind of gone from there, where offensive coordinators have realized that they can create tremendous mix matches by utilizing the tight end in the passing game. You can get them either on a smaller safety or a nickelback, or you get them on a larger linebacker, and they're able to create mix matches with the more athletic tight ends that we have now. Tight end used to just really be a glorified lineman, and every now and again they might be able to go out for a pass. Now, obviously, in the past, there were some tight ends that were very good, like Mike Ditka and Charlie Sanders and Jackie Smith and John Mackey. But the tight end wasn't utilized in the game the way that they utilize them now to take advantage of the mix match of the size and the speed of some of these guys, particularly when you talk about somebody like Vernon.
Wasn't that around 75 when that started to change?
Yeah, with Eric Coryell, down there in San Diego, late 70s, early 80s. When Kellen Winslow was doing his thing, he was catching a lot of balls. Prior to that, tight ends were not catching the kind of balls, obviously, that you're catching now, where you have guys catching 100 balls in the season now. They were more or less getting 30 to 50 passes, but they're primarily used because the game has changed. They're primarily used in the blocking game, whereas now they are definitely
the offense.
A big part of the passing game. And you just look at the franchise tags numbers. I mean, their number is they got a pretty substantial number. It's more than running back, so they're valued. They're valued by organizations by the way they get paid, because of the advantage that you can create by having an athletic tight end, a tight end that can run, and also a tight end that's effective in the blocking game as well.
Well, I'll just say one thing, and then we'll go on to some other things here. I know the Lions were one of the first teams that employed a two tight end system, I think, with David Hill and Charlie Sanders, and then I think the Cowboys copied after that. So, and we all know that the NFL is a copycat league. So with that said, I want to go on to our first subject of the night. Two notable coaching hires today, but they're defensive coordinators. Brian Flores is going to the Minnesota Vikings. Steve Wilks, defensive coordinator, to San Francisco. Round the horn with this. Candy, we'll start off with Rick Curdy, and then Candy will have the last word. So, Rick, give me your thoughts about these two hires.
Well, San Francisco did great. I'm very familiar with Steve Wilks for him being the interim. Great defensive-minded coach. Did great things here with the Panthers in a short period of time. A lot of people, I including me, want to see him as head coach, but I'm glad he found a spot. He's now reunited with McCaffrey. And for Brian Flores, I know he was being interviewed as the Cardinals head coach, and I think he made a great move. I wouldn't, for all the money in the world, I would never want to be the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals. So I think he made a great move by being the defensive coordinator for Minnesota, and I think that will hopefully propel him. And I wouldn't be surprised if he does become a head coach in the not too distant future. So two good hires for both clubs. I think they're going to do very well and flourish out there. Steve Wilks in San Francisco, and I think Brian Flores with the Minnesota Vikings.
Well, I'll say one thing. The Cardinals have not had a head coach that lasted longer than 6 years in a long time. So when you talk about the fact that Flores went to the Vikings, I think was an excellent move for sure. So, all right, we'll take it over to Travis.
Yeah, I'm going to echo a lot of what Rick just said. In that way, Wilks going to San Francisco, taking over DeMarco Ryan's group. That's pretty much one of the better situations you're gonna fall into. So at that point, outside of any stylistic changes or philosophy changes, you're going to have a great disciplined, group that he doesn't have to make too many like significant changes. And hopefully, the next coaching cycle, he'll be able to get back into, be one of those top defensive guys that everybody's going to be looking for after this coaching cycle. It's think that he didn't get, a head coaching, a real head coaching run, this cycle, but it made sense after he didn't get the Panthers job, of course. And as far as the Flores situation, that was a fun one, to say the least, because he turned down the opportunity, and he turned down the opportunity what was in Denver, and turned down the head coaching opportunity in Arizona for the second interview that was scheduled on Wednesday to take the Vikings job. So I'm hoping they threw a boatload of money at him as the first part. I haven't seen that piece reported yet, but also, hoping that he'll get that opportunity for a head coaching position next time. But you have to ask the question, what is happening over in Arizona? Like, how radioactive, like what is going on that former head coach who has an opportunity to coach again, potentially, and is saying, I'm not even going to wait the 3 days, I shouldn't even say 3 days, 2 days, basically, to have that second interview. Like that, something that's not being vocally reported is absolutely happening and known
2
in
words,
coaching
Kyler
circles.
Murray.
Oh,
Kyler Murray.
that guy.
Well, I was questioning whether it was Kyler Murray or whether there's something that's happening in the front office.
I've heard reports that they don't want to coach him. They don't believe he's a franchise. They're worried that he got all this money, and because he's not getting along with people, that he's toxic, and they don't want to go there.
The only coach that wanted to hire him, they wouldn't give up the draft picks to talk to him. The only coach that said he wanted to coach Kyler Murray was Sean Payton. That's the only coach that I've heard in all the interviews out there, former coaches or current coaches, that said they wanted to coach Kyler Murray. And they didn't want to pony up the draft picks to get him in there. It is their fault they're sitting in this, because when you got a guy that's the size of Mighty Mouse and won't study film after Modern Warfare comes out, you have issues.
All right, Jeremy, while you're on a roll, why don't you go ahead and read one of Will Vogel's chats, and then we'll let you put them on both, okay?
Hey, Will Vogel says, I'm happy for Wilks.
I've never heard Mighty Mouse before, but then again, a lot of things you say I never hear of.
Oh, wait. You should have seen the video I saw on TikTok right after Kyler Murray got his contract. It showed one of those fast racing remote control cars going on the expressway in and out of traffic, and it said Kyler Murray on the way to cash his check.
Yeah.
There you go. All right. Now, while you're at it, go ahead and read the thing from Bowl.
I'm happy for Wilkes, as I'm a Panthers fan and thought he should have been a Panthers coach. And I think Flores was the right choice to be a DC. And he's, Flores turned down both of those teams because they're dumpster fires. He doesn't want to go back and be a head coach for a team that's in the worse shape than Miami was when he got there.
Good point.
And he wants to go somewhere. They could just be a mid team, and it would be better than either one of those teams to go to.
Good point. Now read the next one.
He should be a good DC, Flores, and maybe get a head coach job in the next year or two. Yeah, he's just waiting for the right opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. With that said, Mel.
Probably when Brandon Staley gets fired because they fail to make the playoffs next year.
Yeah, you know what? That could be a good, attractive job.
Or the coach of the Falcons. I think he's on his last legs too.
Yeah,
both of those.
Smith? Art Smith and Brandon Staley are probably on a real short lease over the next year.
Yeah,
and you got two coaches in Wilkes and Flores that'd be ready to take their place. All right, Mel, any thoughts about the Flores and Wilkes?
Yeah, I'm happy for both of them. Especially if Brian Flores get him an opportunity. That you think about the Arizona job that you guys are saying that he turned down. You have to think about the situation that he just left, and he's not trying to recreate that situation. He was in a situation where he didn't believe in the quarterback, ownership, front office. They did believe in the quarterback. So there was that infighting there. The last thing he wants to do is find himself in a similar position where he doesn't necessarily believe in this quarterback, but ownership and management obviously do, because they just paid the guy an awful lot of money. So he's being smart about it. He's not taking a job just because it's a job. He's going to be smart about it and methodical, and he understands that every year 6 to 8 coaching jobs come up, and he'll just wait his turn. He'll just wait it out till next year and see what the landscape looks like, and see if there's a better opportunity. And you guys, you're talking about a copycat league, and yes, everybody wants an offensive minded head coach right now, but that'll change. As soon as some of these defensive minded head coaches, go out there and prove that they can win. You got Mike Tomlin, who's a defensive minded coach. Nobody ever says anything that about Pittsburgh needs to hire an offensive minded coach. You just get an offensive minded offensive coordinator. That's offensive coordinator. That's what you do. The guy who's very effective and very good as an offensive coordinator to go in there and coach up that quarterback and get him to produce. So these defensive coaches, these African-American defensive coaches, they're going to get their opportunity. I'm interested to see what's going to happen. They had Eric Bieniemy is still out there. He's been doing nothing but amazing work there in Kansas City for a long, long time now. And, he's a guy that deserves an opportunity. Now, is Arizona or Indianapolis an opportunity for him? I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see how it plays out.
Well, Arizona's done with the last 2 candidates, so I wouldn't worry about connecting Bieniemy there. And I don't know what's going on in Indianapolis. Anything you want to add, Jeremy, before I turn over to Candy?
Yeah, Bieniemy, I think he's just waiting for Andy Reid to either have a heart attack or choke on a chicken bone or something, because he's been there forever and he just never seems to go nowhere.
Well, I think that Bieniemy's contract is up. He could be landing somewhere as another offensive coordinator. Somewhere we'll see. All right, Candy.
Well, I'm happy for Wilks. There was a lot of people that were sad that he didn't get the Carolina job, so I'm glad he landed somewhere, As far as Brian Flores going to Minnesota ranked 28th in points. Their defense ranked 28th in points allowed and 31st in yards allowed in 2022. Yet they ended with a 13-4 record. Am I happy? Brian Flores is going to do a good job where he can have good success. Am I happy about it? No, because as you can see, I'm a Packer. I don't really want a good defensive-minded coach coming into our league against my team. But with all that being said, I'm glad he landed, and I think it's a good job, a good fit for him, and I think he'll do well.
Yeah, the only thing I'll close on the thought is that Wilks and Flores will be one and dones as a defensive coordinator. I do believe they'll get head coaching jobs, hopefully in the next coaching cycle for sure. So we'll see. That's just my gut feeling. They'll be one and dones, and they'll have their own gigs next year. Jeremy, anything else you want to add to that?
As far as Flores, he needs to somehow de-age that average age on the defense by about 4 years to make it relevant. That's why they're relevant. That's why they're having issues. Everybody's getting hurt now because they're all 28 and up for the most part out of their starters.
Okay. All right.
That's part of it. That's half of it. But they also were one of the least blitz happy teams as far as pressures were concerned. And now But now you're going to a DC who was literally in the top 2 in every year in Miami in a pressure rate. So, hey, just maybe that philosophy can change it up for them.
That might, but I'm just saying that there's a lot of aging players that are starting to get long in the tooth there, and they keep having those nagging injuries. I mean, we've seen Harrison Smith the last 2 years miss I think a total of 10 games.
No, that's fair.
Okay. All right. Well, let's go on to the next topic here. Okay. We're going to talk about the Super Bowl, but this one's got a little bit of history to it. And I think history for the right reasons. Super Bowl 57, is that what they are? I'm not good with Roman numerals, but I want to say it's 57.
XVII?
Yeah, that's LV.
57.
Is it LVII? I don't know.
LVII, yeah.
It's just one of my eye tests that I always seem to fail over at ophthalmologist, probably. But we'll feature 2 starting black quarterbacks in the Super Bowl for the first time ever. Well, you know what? We all know Doug Williams won the first one. So, Mel, I'll turn it over to you. How happy are you for this?
Yeah, I don't know. It's like, what took so long, really? That's how I look at it. Here, 2023, they've been playing football for how long? And it's taken this long for 2 opposing teams who have African-American starting quarterbacks. My question is, why did it take so long?
Yeah.
We know why, but no one wants to say it. I'll say it for you if you want.
Well, you will after he's finished.
Yeah, I know.
It's exciting for young African American quarterbacks growing up to be able to see somebody that looks like them participating in the game at the highest level on the biggest stage. That's what the significance is. So there's a lot of young kids that are going to be watching this game, and they're going to be able to visualize themselves out there playing in a game of this magnitude. Not just playing in the NFL, but also playing in the game of this magnitude. And yeah, it's obviously it's a huge deal for us. And you look at the college game, and the number of African Americans that are succeeding on the college level, and you see that there's a little more trust in that position, because that's what it's all about. Trusting that person in that position. You see that there's a lot more trust of management, ownership, to put, to have someone who is going to be the face of the franchise that is, not the same color as you are. And there's people are becoming comfortable with that. Ownership is becoming comfortable with that. Whether, whether it's somebody, like Patrick Mahomes, who is, biracial, or you're looking at somebody like Lamar Jackson, who's from, I think from Florida, and, wears his hair a little bit different than, most, owners are accustomed to dealing with. Doesn't necessarily talk the same way that, a Patrick Mahomes may talk, or a Josh Allen may speak, but he's an effective leader and he's an effective quarterback. So it just, it shows that, the ownership is finally catching up with the times. They say, hey, when Alabama a long time ago, I think we talked about this last week or a couple of weeks ago, and they scheduled a game against USC, and Sam the Bam Cunningham was a running back at that particular time and ran all over Alabama, and Bear Bryant brought Sam the Bam Cunningham into the locker room and told everybody this is the future of college football. And so that's the direction that everybody needed to go. You need to have one of these, is what they said, in order to compete in college football. So, they started recruiting black players in the South, and you see what that's done to conferences like the SEC. But yeah, I think it's very exciting for young people to see some folks that, somebody that looks like them in the position that they play, playing a game that they love at the highest level on the biggest stage.
Okay, Jeremy.
Well, you got to think back. We're into the third generation of owners in the NFL? It's taken a long time to get the good old boys club out of being in charge. They used to think, we saw it all the time. You look at the drafts, and there'd be these quarterbacks that came out of HBCUs and southern schools that were great. And what would happen when they come to the NFL? They get made into wide receivers, tight ends, and running backs.
Right.
It's a form of systemic in the NFL. And finally, people like Steve McNair, Warren Moon, and the guys that paved the way, Randall Cunningham, all those guys paved the way to make it so these young guys now can be doing it now, because they're the ones that started the change of the mind with the second generation of owners. And now with this third generation of owners, they're there. And they're finally letting it happen. And kudos.
Amazingly enough, though, Jeremy, bring that up. I'll never forget when I was growing up, Dennis Franklin of the Michigan Wolverines had a great run at U of M, and the Lions picked him up, and they tried to convert him, I think, to a wide receiver. I think you remember that too, right? Dennis Franklin, Mel? Or maybe not.
Who's that you said?
Dennis Franklin, former Michigan Wolverine. If you look him up, Dennis Franklin fits what Jeremy was talking about. So I don't want to get off too subject, throw a little historical perspective. All right, Travis, go ahead.
Well, it's interesting because a lot of this change that we're commenting on is happening, while also still happening ridiculously slowly for what's happening surrounding it. And what I mean to say is, we had a conversation actually offline after last week's show, when we talked about the whole transition with a lot of teams going to the younger coaches, a lot of teams going to the college style offense, a lot of teams, as these things are happening, you're going to see a lot more college style offenses with, college style quarterbacks, I should say, more athletic quarterbacks, less pocket passers. And with that occurring, you're going to then see, more black quarterbacks. You're going to see more athletic, even white quarterbacks, for that matter. You're going to see more, Josh Allen's and Trevor Lawrence's, which is not, he could probably play in multiple eras of football, but you get my point. Those quarterbacks who can not only just throw the ball sitting in the pocket, but also can scramble and kind of do some things with their legs. And that's the interesting part about it, because while we've mentioned, hey, you have all these quarterbacks who's from these HBCUs and from these other Southern conferences who were turned into wide receivers. That was what was happening. That was a comment when Lamar Jackson was in the draft, in case you don't remember that, because I do, Jaguars fan. And yeah, and we were talking about, I wanted us to pick the draft Lamar Jackson, and I'm hearing those rumors that people are asking him to try out as a receiver. That wasn't very long
running
ago.
back.
You know what I mean? Like, that wasn't that long ago.
No, it wasn't.
So even then, we had NFL coaches, NFL executives, front offices who have that exact same mindset, who are still, so it takes a good coach, a good front office, an open-minded, executive team to say, hey, I'm going to do what's best for the team. And if that means it's this quarterback, then awesome, or that quarterback is awesome. But it's a slow process, because we still have that, permeating throughout the NFL, and that's going to take, some more years or generations, however long it's going to be. But it's awesome that we have these two, being the poster children. And hey, this is what success looks like, when you can just, hey, grade the best player or grade the best offense, or be flexible in the way that you're running it. But nevertheless, it's going to still be a process to get it, where it's a truly equal playing field, and kind of get this thing moving forward.
Well, Will Vogel makes an interesting point. I want to give some people some information here. Here's a fact with the NFL. First African-American QB for the Packers was Seneca Wallace. If I remember right, I think Seneca Wallace played at Syracuse. I don't know exactly for sure, but it sounds right. All right, just Inside the Pigskin can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcast. So please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube. South Florida Tribune. We're striving for 1,000 subscribers. So, all right, Rick, go ahead. I think it was Syracuse, I believe.
I'm pretty sure
it was Kansas State, man. I think. But let me look. I'm gonna tell you here in just a second.
Sorry. While you're doing that, Rick.
No, I played Iowa State.
Oh, was it Iowa State?
Yeah, I knew it was somewhere in the heartland.
That's okay. Well, nevertheless, he was drafted by the Packers. I wasn't sure. All right, Rick, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm surprised when I heard this stat. I looked back and said, really? That's the first time ever? But you look back, I'm like, yeah. I mean, for a long time, I remember the first superstar African-American quarterback when I was watching football was Warren Moon.
Yeah.
He was the first guy like, oh, this guy's a first ballot Hall of Famer, and, just incredibly successful. And
Warren Moon took a long route to get to the NFL.
Yeah, he played in Canada and all that stuff. Yeah.
For a long time.
So he was the first for me. And then as I got older, Dante Culpepper was pretty terrific. And if it wasn't for that knee injury, who knows? He was really good. And yeah, he was a really good quarterback. And now it's great to see two young guys in their prime, both very explosive quarterbacks. Not only are they good pocket quarterbacks, but they run really good as well. So it's exciting to see that. And it's also cool to see the two Kelsey brothers. That's the first time, to have two opposing brothers facing each other in the Super Bowl. So a lot of history made. I'm glad to see it with the quarterbacks, and you see a lot more coming out. Cam Newton was in the Super Bowl not too long ago. So, it's great to see African-American quarterbacks where for a long period of time it was dominated by a Caucasian.
Well, not only that, you also had two coaches, I think Lovie Smith and Tony Dungy, I believe, faced each other, if I remember right. So
Yep.
You had that scenario, which was pretty good. Of course, the Harbaughs played each other or coached against each other when the 49ers took on the Colts. So, all right, Katie, hoping to steal a lot of
that would be the Ravens, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
49ers versus Ravens. You said Colts.
Oh, never mind. Well, different Baltimore. That's okay. Thanks for the correction, Jeremy. Whatever. So, all right, Candy, go ahead. Jeremy always picks me up when I need him. So, don't worry. Wait till we do the YouTube stuff later. He knows how to really give me that finger.
I was ready to do that, and then you
That's all right.
change subject real quick.
That's okay. You're good, Jeremy. You know where you stand with me. All right, Candy. Did we say anything you haven't, or is there still a little bit left in the tank for you to add to this?
There's a little left in the tank for your, crack person that goes out and checks out stats and everything. While 70% of the league is black NFL players, only 25% are black quarterbacks. And if you look at Warren Moon is the only black quarterback in the NFL Hall of Fame, the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And if you look at ownership, 95.3% of NFL ownership is white.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we need to turn the tides a little, and I'm glad to see that finally it's 2 black quarterbacks. I think it's best man up. I don't, whatever color skin it is, but I think equal opportunity, and, I'm happy that whatever color your skin is and you belong on that field, I'm happy that you're there and you're getting that opportunity.
And the only thing I'll say about Jalen Hurts, by the way, second round pick, you didn't have to pick him in the first round. So those will show you your franchise QB does not have to be in the first round. It could be 2 through 7 or undrafted free agent, as we found out with Tom Brady, not getting into Tom Brady, but made the reference. All right. But that said, the Eagles have outscored opponents 69-14 this offseason. So, Rick Curdy, does it matter?
Nothing matters. You throw all that out in the Super Bowl and the playoffs. You could, look at the Patriots. They went undefeated and they lost to the Giants in the Super Bowl. So to me, you just throw all that out. It's going to be a great game. I actually do have the Chiefs winning, but it's going to be a really good Super Bowl. I think both are going to be on their A games. And like you say, we have history made with the quarterbacks, with the brothers. And I do have the Chiefs winning it. So you could throw all that out.
What about you, Trav?
I disagree totally. I think it always matters when you're looking at something, with the long view. It matters, but on a week by week basis, it's like March Madness. The best team doesn't always win. It can be just a bad matchup on the bad day, or just hey, they didn't prepare the right game plan for what they thought they were going to see. Whatever you want to, that can go a billion different ways. At the end of the day, I think it matters personally, because I think the defense that they're playing against historically runs cover 2. They for the most part, the Chiefs run a cover 2 defense that like top of the league. That's just what they do, and what they do does not match up well against what Philadelphia does. So for a team that's not very good at running cover 3, that will need to run a lot of cover 3 for the first time in the season, them having to do that, I think it absolutely matters. You're going to have them at minimum being uncomfortable doing something that they don't normally do against an offense that can score at will. Everybody's always talking about Kansas City's offense, but I don't think it's going to come down to that. It's going to come down to that defense and how they can play when they're doing something they're just not natural at doing. And yeah, I think it matters.
All right, Jeremy.
Great point, Travis. And I was going to say, do you know the entire season, including the playoffs, there has only been 4 teams that scored more than 30 points versus Philly. Number 1 was Dallas with 40 points in their win when Jalen Hurts was hurt. Number 2, Detroit Lions, 35 points in week 1. Number 3, Green Bay, 33 points in a loss, and the Washington Commanders when they beat them with 32 points. That's it. That's the only teams that scored more than 30 points. And the teams with good records that played against them, other than that, you know what their total points was for the season? 29.
Yeah, fair enough. What do you think, Mel?
Yeah, I don't think it matters, to be honest with you. You got to reset. It only matters if you sit there and you believe it matters. But, what happened in the prior 2 games has no bearing on what's going to happen on Sunday. As Travis was saying, it's a whole different elephant here that you're dealing with. It's different, entirely different. So, it's going to, Jalen has played well all year long, and I don't see why he wouldn't play well on Sunday, because he's played well all year long, but he's going to have to play a great game for them to win. Kansas City is a good team, and plus here, they have a little chip on their shoulder as well. They've been there before too, so they know this environment. They know, what it's going to be like, the jitters and all that kind of stuff. They know what it's going to be like. It's been a while since Philly's been there. I don't know how many guys are still on the team for when they won that Super Bowl against the Patriots, but I would dare to say there's not that many. And I certainly know that Jalen wasn't there at that particular time. So, yeah, it doesn't matter. All that doesn't matter. What matters is, how well they're preparing right now and how well prepared they're going to be on Sunday, and who is able to commit the fewest turnovers and who is able to cause the other team to commit turnovers. And, it's always going to come down to a turnover game. You got to be mistake-free. Can't have a lot of penalties. And who's going to be able to do what they've been doing all year long? Is Philadelphia going to be able to run the football the way they've been able to run the football all year long, or is Kansas City going to make them do something different? Kansas City going to be able to throw the ball all around a lot the way they've been doing all year long, or is Philadelphia's defense going to make it tough on Patrick Mahomes by putting some pressure on him, getting him off his spot? He is still a little hobbled with that high ankle sprain, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens on Sunday.
Candy,
if you don't mind me asking, if I can hop in just for a second, Mel, do you have any concern that Jalen won't play his best game since he hasn't really had to these last 2 weeks?
No, that's why I said, he's played well all year long. He has the injury. He missed a couple throws last week. I think that we all saw that. There were some throws, some long throws that he kind of overshot it. He can't overshoot those guys. When somebody's running wide open, you got to be able to hit that guy in stride. You got to be able to capitalize on that and make that guy bump his head on the goalpost in the end zone. So those are the kind of things that I'm talking about, being able to take advantage of the opportunities that are there, making sure that you're able to capitalize on those opportunities. When somebody's running downfield wide open and got his man beat by 5 yards, he's got to hit his head on the goalpost. That's it. You can't overthrow him. That's unacceptable. You can't overthrow him in a game like this in this magnitude, because you might not get another shot.
by the way, hi, Mike Arango. He's a 49ers fan, but, it had everybody there. Who knows? We could be talking about you in this game, but hi, Mike. Thanks for joining us. All right, Candy.
This one's a tough one. I mean, Kansas City's a little banged up. Eagles haven't been there in a while. Kansas City has. I think it might come down to coaching and who makes the better adjustments at halftime, because I think, Andy Reid's been there. I don't know. I think it might come down to coaching, because I think sometimes in these big games, who gets their team ready to play, who's got their team more focused, because they're both good teams. Obviously, they had to get there. But one key point one of you made is this is one game. It's not like a series like some of the other championships that are, it's a best of 7 series or a best of 3 or anything. It's one game. So you better be on for all 4 quarters and play all 4 quarters, or you're not going to win.
Yeah, the only thing I'll do to close out the topic is when we talk about the Eagles having outscored their opponent 69-14 this postseason, I say it really doesn't matter. I expect this to be a shootout, and 14 points is 14 points. I have every reason to believe that each side should score at least over 20-some-odd points, but we'll see. That's just a hypothetical on my part. 2 exceptional quarterbacks for sure. So, all right, you know what? We're going to go down. Is it down or up 95 a little bit, and talk about the New York Jets, okay? And this was one of the more intriguing topics I've ever seen. So I have to go ahead and mention it. Being a quarterback for that franchise has been tough. Here's how we're going to break down the particulars. I knew we'd get some eyes rolling with this one. The Jets have had 3 consecutive seasons without a quarterback throwing 10-plus touchdown passes. Only one quarterback has had a season with 30-plus pass yards and touchdowns, and that's Ryan Fitzpatrick, by the way, is on Amazon. And 56 years since a quarterback has thrown for 4,000-plus yards, and we're talking Joe Namath. My goodness. If the Bears think they got problems with their quarterback situation, the Jets aren't having it any easier. All right, Rick.
It's the curse of Dan Marino. That's what it is. I mean, that team is cursed. I have my green on, but I'm not a Jet fan, so I don't want people to think I'm a Jet fan. I'm not. Right. They're just cursed. They just
that's for Tulane, right?
Tulane, yeah, go Tulane. So or Michigan State. But they're just cursed. I call it the Dan Marino curse. You know, they just they never got him, but they've been cursed before that. I mean, they don't know how to draft quarterbacks. You know, they got Darnold, didn't work out. Zach Wilson he's a knucklehead Johnny Manziel. He's never going to pan out. I like Mike White. I mean, but you know, I think he's their best. He should be their starting quarterback. They seem to play better around him, but and it wasn't for Joe Namath. If it wasn't for Joe Namath, they would be forgotten and one of the biggest upsets in the Super Bowl against the Colts, and him waving that finger, going in the locker room, you know, very iconic. So if it wasn't for Joe Namath, they probably would have moved somewhere and probably be the Bismarck Jets or somewhere. Who knows? But that's the only person that made them relevant is Joe Namath. So they're just cursed, and they have horrible ownership. And I don't, you know, like I said, Mike White to me is to be their starter, but they're just cursed. The Dan Marino curse, as I like to call it.
Okay, fair enough. I'll turn over to Travis, and then after you, that to you, Jeremy.
Well, it's interesting though. I mean, they've had some not dreadful quarterbacks, at least. I'll give them that. And I know dreadful quarterback play. I've been a Jaguars fan. So, but they just never had since Joe Namath, they never had that guy. They, you know, aimed high for, you know, the not the greatest quarterback and, you know, Wilson. But I mean, they had Chad Pennington, you know, Benny Testaverde. It's pretty much been downhill since Mark Sanchez in reality.
Butt fumble.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's it's been the curse of butt fumble pretty much since that first defensive led, you know, what was the AFC Championship. It's pretty much been downhill since that time. So yeah, hopefully they can improve at drafting, or, you know, pull a Denver Broncos and just send a haul for some aging quarterback that maybe can get them over the hump, because the team seems to be ready. The surrounding team, as far as the rest of that roster, is a pretty solid situation. It's just, hey, they're missing that quarterback. Maybe they can find a Russell Wilson, you know, scenario that actually works out, you know, better than Russell, of course. But yeah,
well, I'm sure we'll address this subject during free agency. With that said, yeah, Will Vogel will be doing our Super Bowl predictions shortly, so hang with us. Okay, with that said, Jeremy, go ahead.
They should pull the trigger, send their first, send the third, and next year's second, and get Aaron Rodgers right now. They get Aaron Rodgers, they're winning the East.
And
that team is set. And then, no, because he's already said he'd restructure. He already said he'd restructure if he goes to another team. That's their meal ticket right there. They get Aaron Rodgers, they do that deal. You let the Jordan Love turnover fest start in Green Bay, and get yourself a top 10 pick next year, and both teams get rebuilt real quick.
Okay, fair enough. All right, Mel.
Yeah, what about Aaron? What if he comes back from his darkness retreat and decides he wants to retire?
Then let him retire.
Is it that COVID anti-medication he was taking? What was he? What was it that making him delusional? Is that what he's doing right now?
Immunized. Come on, Rick. He figured out immunized. That's all. That's what he said.
Aaron is almost like Kyrie, man. Can you trust him? I mean, I don't know. I don't know if you can trust him. I wouldn't give up that kind of draft capital for Aaron Rodgers. You know,
if you're going all in on a chance to get to the Super Bowl for 1 year,
you're going all in.
That's what you do.
About it, and you're betting on red.
But LaFleur is a good coach, and that's weird to go to a worse coaching situation and expect it to get better.
I don't think Salah's a bad coach. I think it's a tough situation. Obviously, it's been a tough situation over there. If you don't get that position right, it's tough to win. I don't care what level of football you're playing, whether you're playing Pop Warner, high school, college. If you can't get that position right, it's going to be difficult. And, you know, they need to really look at their people. They need to look at their front office and how they're drafting and how they're going about and evaluating that position, because they swung and missed huge on the draft with this kid. And again, they're going to give him all the chances to prove that he can't play, because they're trying to justify spending that kind of draft capital on him. Somebody signed off on that. So somebody, there's a lot of people that signed off on that. So they're trying to justify their positions within that organization by saying that, yeah, this guy can play. They're going to give him all the chances in the world to prove that he can play. Mike White might, or whatever, the backup quarterback might have outplayed him, played better, but he's still going to get his chance because he was drafted number 2 overall, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
But yeah, right now it seems like it's time to just cut bait with him because it doesn't seem like it's going to work out. He doesn't seem to have the right mental makeup to be. He's just not a grown up right now.
He's the new Josh Rosen.
He may be. He's worse.
He's Johnny Manziel.
Mm-hmm.
We're really getting cruel here.
He's just not a grown up.
Yeah, he's Cutler.
He's not ready for that position. Really.
You can't say that. Cutler's good.
He got the. I mean, he should have really. He should have ended up in Jacksonville, a little small town, and let Trevor Lawrence be up there in the big city. That would have worked out a little bit better. The big city was too much for him. He needs to be in a small town, little small community where there's not a whole lot of pressure, not a lot of media. Big city was the last place that he needed to go, and unfortunately, it's gonna New York is cruel. It's a tough place to play.
Well, I'll just say it's a far cry from Utah. That's for sure.
What's that?
It's a far cry from Utah.
Yeah.
Oh,
there.
I don't even think he was a Mormon. He only went to Brigham Young because their mascot was the Cougars. He was just sad when he found out it was the animal.
That's where Jim McMahon went, and we definitely know he's not a Mormon.
Yeah.
Well, that change definitely worked well for Evan Ingram. Maybe a change of location would work well for Wilson.
Just don't send it to Charlotte.
XFL or the USFL, either one.
Right.
Well, the good thing is, I think that with the XFL coming out, the USFL playing this year, again, like I've said, I think you're going to find some guys, and you probably find some guys that'll be able to compete at that position and push some guys, because a lot of guys, they need reps, they need live reps. Not scout team reps, not simulated reps, not 7-on-7 reps. You need live reps with bodies flying around your face and your feet to see whether or not you have what it takes in order to be a quarterback. So I think it's good for all positions. Guys need live reps. Corners need reps. Offensive linemen need reps. Defensive linemen need reps. Everybody needs reps. So that's why I like the USFL and the XFL coming back, because I think it's good. It could be a good developmental league for the NFL to find some additional players.
Right.
And maybe one day, they'll join and they'll have a whatever kind of bowl, the XFL against the USFL, and they'll have some kind of bowl and put everything on the line. And who knows, down the road that they might merge and have conferences and all that other kind of stuff.
Well, I'll tell you,
I got it. It's the bottom 2 teams from every league has a matchup, just like the top 2 teams of every league has a matchup.
Yeah, well,
you can call the other one whatever kind of Super Bowl you want to call it, but that bottom 2 team, you can call that game the toilet bowl for the championship on who gets the number 1 pick.
All right. Okay. I know you're getting wild on your creativity. Maybe the Mountain Dew's really sinking in for you a little bit. And Candy's waiting patiently in the wings. That's okay. But I will say one thing. Mel continues to come up with new storylines for Inside the Pigskin during the offseason. So we might revisit that one, whether or not the winner of the XFL will be the winner of the USFL. But we'll worry. Everybody that on this panel that has ideas for the offseason, I'm open to hear them. All right, Candy, what's your take on this Jets thing? I do know that your former offensive coordinator, Nathaniel Hackett, is entrusted to try to get this guy turned around. But what do you think, Candace?
I think if you're going to turn that stat around, you're not going to go after Rodgers, because Rodgers he's not going to be one of your long-term solutions. And is that what you want? Or do you want a quick fix and to just win right now for 1 year? Because let's face it, Aaron every year is, am I going to retire? Am I not going to retire? Am I going to?
But you can't guarantee that.
You can't.
You can't guarantee it's going to be a quick fix and you're going to win right now.
Exactly.
AFC is tough.
Exactly. And let's face it, I
don't
know
a crystal ball and you can guarantee it. Okay, yeah, I'll deal with Aaron Rodgers for a year.
Well, I pretty much said last offseason, as soon as the Rams made the trade for Stafford, they just bought themselves a Super Bowl.
We talked about that last week about teams buying Super Bowls. That's the new thing, though. Mm-hmm. I don't want to bogart the conversation, but if I don't. Yeah, that's a future conversation. But yeah, that's the new thing. 3 of the last Super Bowls have been bought. So
All right, who wants to answer this question?
I've been waiting on it.
If Gardner Minshew
Travis,
Yeah.
you're nominated. Go ahead.
He's
Hold
no
on.
good. He's no good. He's a backup.
if
Move on.
Gardner Minshew was starter quality, he'd have been traded prior to the injury at the trade deadline. He'd have went to a team that had starters that were hurt.
He's not a franchise quarterback. He's just a guy that's just very excitable, different, unique. And that's why if he was just some regular quiet guy, nobody would care about him. He's just kind of out there. So
70s porn star.
I'm
Uncle Rico. He's 2020's Uncle Rico.
Again,
Yeah,
Jazz fan. I watched them all last season. Last season before last. Sorry. And yes, Gardner Minshew is a solid backup quarterback who can win you a few games mainly because a lot of teams don't have very much tape on him. Just like most rookie quarterbacks, when they come in and they're a great splash in the pan, and then the team gets tape on them in the next season, it's like, oh, what happened to him? He just fell off a cliff. Davis Mills. That's exactly the scenario that normally happens, and that's kind of who Gardner Minshew is. The only reason
he can play 15 years.
Bingo.
He's a backup.
Holding the clipboard. But Gardner Minshew probably wouldn't even get the attention that he was getting if he wasn't backing up a black quarterback. But that's the conversation that's a lot harder to have. No, seriously.
No, you're absolutely right.
No. The old Jaguars GM said this, and I'm not even making that up. Like when they had a black quarterback and David Garrard as the quarterback, they had to have a black backup quarterback so that the fans would not clamor for the backup to take the starter's job. And it's the same reason that Lamar Jackson has a black backup quarterback now. Like you have to do that. They have that same similar athleticism as a backup, but also to make sure the fans stay off the starting quarterback's thing. It's a known thing in NFL circles. So I just thought that was interesting.
Well, the interesting point. Candy, anything you want to say about the Jets situation? I know that we've tinkered off a little bit topic because we have some interesting questions. We like to rely on the chat room to add to the show. But anything else you want to say about the Jets? All right, Jeremy.
I got one rebuttal to that. There's only one team that didn't have to worry about that, and that's Seattle, because Drew Lock is trash.
All right. Okay, Jeremy. Candy, anything else you want to add? I'm sure the word trash is definitely a lot on your plate many times, Smoking Jeremy. And, whether it's Matt, you know what? Okay, all right, Candy, go ahead.
The Jets just haven't been able to figure out, like everyone has said, they haven't been able to figure out who to draft as a good quarterback that'll have lasting power and lasting stay. And that's that. And then they have to develop them. So what the other thing is when you're developing somebody, you have to have consistency in coaching as well, because we've often said that Matthew Stafford in Detroit didn't have the consistency in coaching, and that's why he didn't excel. You have to have consistency in coaching for young draft players, I would say.
Yeah, the only thing I'll add to the topic is, like I alluded at the top, it's taken the Bears forever to try to get it right. I thought they had it right with Jim McMahon many years ago, and they ran him out of there, but got a Super Bowl out of him. And everybody's looking at the quarterback, and I hope Justin Fields makes it. But, the Jets in New York, metropolitan New Yorkers, I know, have a tendency to be a little impatient. And with the amount of quarterbacks in their track record, I can understand why wherever the decisions are coming on. So I just thought you had some interesting stats when you talk about the 10 pass TVs, and then Ryan Fitzpatrick and Joe Namath being mentioned in the same topic. Boy, if that isn't all over the map, I don't know what is. All right, on to the next thing, okay? I was looking at CBS Sports here as my point of reference, and I'm going to make this a very short one here because I'm sure everybody has some good parting shots, okay? CBS Sports listed the most playoff wins in NFL history. New England has 37, San Francisco 36. Of course, neither of them are going to get any more. Dallas 36, Pittsburgh 36, Green Bay 36. So I'll make it a very quick one, okay, Rick? Of these teams, okay, which team eventually gets the number one, Rick?
On that list?
Yeah, of the 5.
I would say the Patriots. They have the most. They have the most Super Bowls. Great dynasty they had. So I would say the Patriots.
Okay. Mike Arango disagrees with you. Of course, he's a San Francisco 49er
Of course
fan.
he is.
So.
That's fine.
That's
And
okay.
I'm a Bill Walsh fan, but I'm still going to go with the Patriots.
All right, that's okay. So I have to read him in the chat room too. All right, with that
I
said,
love it.
that's okay. I love that kind of camaraderie on the show between the chat room as well as the panel. All right,
Let
Travis,
me get that list. Let me get that list one more time.
Sure.
Patriots, Steelers, 49ers, Cowboys, Packers.
What's the question?
Who's going to overtake number one, or who's going to be the next one that gets enough wins to be number one
for playoff wins?
If you're telling me who's going to be, I'm going with. That's a hard one. Ooh, because San Francisco's. But yeah, I'm gonna go Pittsburgh. I believe in that. I mean, again, never had a losing record. You're almost guaranteed to be in the playoffs. So at that point, it's just how many bites at the apple. I think that's the easier route to go. So I would say Pittsburgh.
Hey, Mike, if you're telling me that the quarterback is an advantage to me in New England is in full regression, that might have been the case this year, but the fact that they added Bill O'Brien, I think will certainly get the Patriots on track with the offensive coordinator. All right, Jeremy, go ahead and give me your takes. You've heard the question. Who eventually goes to number one out of this group?
Let's see. Well, they got one win this year already, both San Francisco and Dallas, right?
Yeah.
And if that continues and New England continues not to make it and Pittsburgh continues to stay mid, because that's what they are right now. They're not great. They're mid. They're getting 9 wins. 9 wins does not guarantee a playoff spot. You're talking to a guy who knows personally this year. So if they're staying mid, that means they might or might not get in. Dallas and San Francisco are getting 10 wins a year minimum lately. Because
you
their
believe Dallas will continue getting 10?
I think they will, because they can get their 10 wins. I didn't say they're going to go far in the playoffs, but if they get 1 win a year while New England and Pittsburgh aren't in there, guess what? Their win totals go up, correct?
Okay.
That's what I'm getting at. If you're not in, you're not getting more wins.
Okay. So, Jeremy.
San Francisco.
Thank you. And we'll agree. It's okay. I just had to make sure you understood the kid theory, okay? And I'm glad that we spit a San Francisco out of you. And Jeremy, you still amaze the living daylights out of me. We got a bunch of people agree with you, so you're not alone. All right, Mel, go ahead.
Okay, so the question was, what was the question again now?
What team eventually goes to number one? You have New England 37 and San Francisco, Dallas, Pittsburgh, Green Bay 36. Which one gets to number one?
Which ones are 36 again?
Well, I got 4: San Francisco, Dallas, Pittsburgh, and Green Bay.
Dallas, Pittsburgh. See, out of that group, I'd have to. It's not a very good group. I would go with. Pittsburgh plays in a tough division, in a tough conference. San Francisco's got their own issues right now at the quarterback position. Who's going to be playing quarterback for them next year? Dallas is Dallas. And the last one, Green Bay, they're in a full rebuild mode. So I guess by process of elimination and just taking the best of the worst, I'm going to go with Pittsburgh.
Okay. And you know what, Candy? Tell me.
Well, as much as I would love to say my Packers, and I honestly think there is a chance Rodgers is back in Green Bay, because I really don't think he wants to go play for some place else. And I know the Packers have said, and it's coming out and everybody's talking that, he's gone, that they want to see Love. There's if Rodgers would be back, I would say the Packers, but otherwise I'm going to say San Francisco.
Okay. And you know what I'll do? And I number one, I don't trust Dak Prescott as a quarterback. So he hasn't shown me anything when it really matters. Okay. So I'm going to say San Francisco. Just the object of the game for the 49ers is they need to keep the quarterback on the field instead of on injured reserve. And that's really what it comes down to. So I'm going to lean towards San Francisco if they get the quarterback right and they keep him upright on his feet. That usually is a requirement. You have to stand on your feet and throw the ball. The only time you lay on the ground was when somebody tackles and puts you on the ground. So, I don't know enough about what Trey Lance is going to look like. I know Brock Purdy has a bit of a rehab process, and we know Garoppolo is all but gone. So, we'll see what kind of a reserve that they are able to get in free agency. But I'm going to go with San Francisco myself. All right. Well, this is a time where everybody likes their parting shots. So with that said, okay, Rick, lead off.
Well, there's been a lot of going on in sports, but I'm gonna go with this one. These MLB owners, the ones that are whining and complaining about Steve Cohen, he's spending too much money. It's not right. They need to shut up. We need more Steve Cohens in owners in Major League Baseball that want to spend money. I remember another owner in New York that liked to spend money, George Steinbrenner, and that ain't happening anymore. The owner of the Pirates, and the Marlins, Royals, Tampa Bay, whoever's complaining, need to shut up. You're millionaires, spend money. Steve Cohen definitely wants to win a championship. We're talking about winning championships. He definitely wants to win a championship. There's no salary cap in baseball. There's no rules. He can spend trillions of dollars if he wants. He wants to win. These owners need to shut up, leave him alone, and spend money and stop running a AAA baseball team with the Pirates and the Marlins. I love Steve Cohen. I love what he's doing. And hopefully we'll get more Steve Cohens, maybe Bezos, Elon Musk. Maybe one day there'll be MLB owners. But Steve Cohen, keep doing what you're doing. And these cheap owners need to shut up and just open up their wallets.
Okay. Travis, you get to follow Rick.
Hey, I'm okay with that. I like a challenge. So, my parting shot for today is talking about the Pro Bowl. And I don't know if anyone watched it. From what I saw on social media, a lot of people had their complaints as always. I feel like that must be the 30 to 50 crowd. We always have to complain about something, but I think the NFL is doing a good job of trying to keep these the younger generation, the Madden playing generation, engaged with the Pro Bowl. Like they're making it a lot like the skills competition and in the Madden games, from the precision passing to the dodgeball tournament to the longest drive. All of it was pretty fun. Like, I mean, if you take away the fact that it's not real football, we know that's not what the Pro Bowl is. But even the best catch just felt a lot like the slam dunk contest, and in all the ways you watched some players truly have fun. Like, was it, they're not playing football, but they're having fun. They're laughing. It's crazy. It's some nice competition and some other things that's not exactly, NFL football. But unlike most people on social media that you'll see talking about it, I actually thought it was kind of cool just to watch these guys kick back and do some things that was a little different. And it reminded me of the old, I don't even know, early 90s NFL skills competitions that they were having. Yeah, it kind of had that feel to it. So unlike everyone else, I'm saying great job, NFL. Hey, do what you have to do to keep roping in this young generation, and just keep making those changes, whatever needs to be happening to keep this thing fresh.
All right, Jeremy.
I'm great take, because I actually enjoyed it, and I am 52 years old. The only thing I didn't enjoy was the actual flag football game, but other than that, I enjoyed it very much. The skills competition was great. Kudos to Amon-Ra St. Brown for winning the best catch, because that was kind of dope, him using his brother in that little weird lateral over the landing pad. That was kind of cool. But overall, my parting shot is we have seen a whirlwind of coaching carousel at different positions, coordinators, assistants, and everything else. And it's not going to stop anytime soon, because there's still seats to fill. And for some god-awful reason, Jim Irsay is saying Jeff Saturday is still at the top of his list. Somebody needs to get that guy to shut up and let his GM do his job.
As a Jaguars fan, nothing makes me happier.
I know.
Well, like I say, Jeremy, you always bring it, and you're consistently really good. Okay. All right, Mel.
Yeah, I haven't watched the Pro Bowl in years, and I actually I guess I kind of tuned into it because it's just kind of curious. I actually thought that the catch, whatever it was, the greatest catch, whatever. I thought that was the corniest of all the events, to be honest with you, because it just
it didn't materialize.
It just didn't, I mean, it had all the hype of like a slam dunk competition, but it fell way, way short. So they need to do something with that to bring that up. But everything else, to me, I think it was good. I think it's good opportunity. It's good for the players. I think it's good for the fans. Have opportunity to see players without their headgear on. I think they should go back and do it in Hawaii, because I think that made it a real nice trip for the players. Guys, I think most of the guys look forward to it when it was in Hawaii. I don't remember it, but I know I went to the Pro Bowl with my dad when I was a little youngster, and I'm sure I had fun in the sand. But I'm sure a lot of these guys talked about that as well, the Pro Bowl being in Hawaii. So I didn't mind it so much, to be honest with you. And I thought the flag football game got more competitive as the game went along. As it got to the third game, I thought the flag football game got to be a lot more competitive. And I think the NFL did a good job, because the product that they had before out there was awful. I haven't watched the Pro Bowl in decades, and was really kind of interested, curious to see how this would work out. And I think they've done a good job, to be honest with you.
All right, I'll turn over to Candy. I'll get my parting shot, and everybody gets their opportunity of predictions. All right, Candy, go ahead.
So my parting shot, I'm going to go all serious on all of you guys. My parting shot is don't live with regrets. Ask people the questions you want to ask. Ask them what you want to know. Tell them how you feel. Hug them. I don't care, because you never know when is the last time you're going to see somebody.
Amen to that.
Yep.
So you got to tell people how you feel. You got to ask questions if you want to know the answers. And just let them, just hug them. Just tell them you love them, because, again, you just never know when the last conversation is that you're going to have with some of your loved ones.
Wow. Once again, I want to mention that we are dedicating this edition of Inside the Pigskin to Fred Ebling. It's my father-in-law and Candy's father. So love you, Pops. Rest in peace, and we'll see you over the weekend. All right. Well, my parting shot is going to go to college football. I don't think it's a parting shot. It's more like information. Okay. Iowa and Northwestern will be playing a game on November the 4th at Wrigley Field. And you know what? And this will be a Wildcats home games. Once upon a time, the Bears played at Wrigley Field from 1921 to 1970. The Chicago Cardinals actually played there, and also the DePaul played there until they folded in 1939. I think it's kind of neat. Wrigley Field's back in the football business once in a while, and I like it when some of these games get played at old ballparks. We've seen old Fenway Park before, and now obviously Wrigley Field. So when this came across my thing, I thought, it's worth giving Wrigley a little bit of a shout here. And, with Northwestern being up the road off of I-94 and Iowa being in that part of the country, looking forward to seeing it. Who knows where I'll be anyways, but I was glad to see this. So with that said, okay, enjoyed everybody's parting shots. Now we get predictions. All right, Mel, lead it off. Who's going to win on Sunday?
Well, it's a battle between my heart and my head. My heart wants to see Philly win, but my head is telling me that Kansas City is going to win. But I'm gonna go with Philly.
Want to give me a score?
Just go with Philly.
Okay, that's fair enough.
They'll win by one.
Huh?
At least they'll win by at least one.
Look at this guy. All right, you got more moves than Barry Sanders when it comes to talking no question. But all right. All right, well, if he's not going to give a score, then neither am I. And if you guys want to give a score at your own risk. All right, Jeremy.
I'm taking Philly. I'm taking the over at 48.5. And I'm taking Jalen Hurts for over 75 yards and A.J. Brown for over 35 yards receiving. A $10 bet may net me $950.
Well, I hope you win that. And I can guarantee that those stats that you gave me about those numbers to me make me feel like I need Fred Ebling as another math teacher. He was awfully good at it. All right, Travis.
I'm going. I'm sort of like everyone else. It's hard to bet against harder to bet against the GOAT, and I want to say Kansas City is going to win because how do you go against Mahomes? But I'm going with my head, and my head tells me that Philadelphia wins this. And it's not even close. I'm going 37-27 Philly. The Chiefs, 2 games in a row, have only scored 10 points after the half. I think that's what does them in.
Okay, Rick?
I have the Chiefs 27-20, and Travis Kelce will be the MVP.
Good enough. Candy,
Philly by 3.
want to give me a score? You're going to do another thing
I'm
with
just
more.
going to say Philly by 3.
Come on, guys, score. Come
No
on.
one's confident.
Yeah, there you
Hey,
go.
Okay,
27,
I'll give you my
20.
score. 28-23, Philly over the Chiefs. Total score of 51 points.
That ain't bad. Okay, I'll give you my score. Philadelphia 33, Kansas City 27, and that helps you on the over-under there, Jeremy. So there you go. So with that said, great show tonight. Glad to have the crew. Great crew as always. I want to make sure that we all have a good time. We talk about some most interesting things. So with that said, first of all, let everybody know how they get a hold of you. We'll start off with Rec.
You can find me on my website, www.charlottebats.com. You can find me on Facebook at Charlotte MLB. You can find me on Instagram at Charlotte Bats. You can find me on Twitter, Charlotte Bats Baseball. Go on our website. You can sign our petition. And if you have any comments or questions, you can email me at cltbatsbaseball@gmail.com.
Very good. All right, Travis.
All right, and you can find me at your nearest Krispy Kreme. Otherwise, you can find me on Twitter at TravLicesBacon. You can also find me on A7BN Sports as a consulting member of the Jacksonville Jaguars team, and also assisting with studentofthegame.com. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Thanks for being back. All right, Jeremy.
Well, I want to start it off by saying you can find me at the SouthFloridaTribune.com under the Motor City Tribune heading with the list of authors where I write about the Lions, of course. Then you can also find me on YouTube at my podcast, Kneecap Biting with Smoking Jeremy B. You can find me on any of Scott's shows because I never know when he's going to use me, and I'll show up in any of them, even if it's for another state, as Candy found out with Fire Up Wisconsin.
Yeah,
And here occasionally on Inside the Pigskin, occasionally on the Sports Exchange, and also on Sunday mornings on a pick'em show called the Sunday Morning Drive.
Well, I got news for you. If there's ever a guy that enjoys the exposure, and we're happy to let him have it, Smoking Jeremy B, you're our MVP, man. I like the fact that this guy's hungry to get on shows. And it's not you getting on him. You do well on him. And yes, last night's Fire Up Wisconsin was one of your better acts. Since the topics really through it, you were non-football related. Good. That's all I'll say. Leave it at there. I'm disappointed at you tonight, though, Jeremy. I thought you were going to give me a Matt Patricia shot.
I didn't get a chance to. I wanted to keep
But you know what?
keep
You
it
got
good.
it now.
I got it now.
I'll give it to
How
you.
about this? Matt Patricia, he was fired as the offensive assistant coach, whatever he was, but he's still on the roster with no title. You know what I think he is? Bill Belichick's coffee boy.
I'm glad you got it in tonight. That will definitely make people think a little bit with that one. All right, Mel, go ahead. Let me know if we get hold of you.
You can find me on all the social media at Mel Farr Jr., whether it's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. Also follow what we have going on down here and also up in Michigan for the youth at melfar.org.
All right, Candy, take us home.
So if you see that little red subscribe button, please hit it. You're subscribing to the South Florida Tribune's YouTube channel. We're striving to get to 1,000. If you like the show or any of our other shows and you want to sponsor it, or if you want your own show, contact Scott 954-304-4941. You can find all of our shows on our YouTube channel, or you can find them on www.southfloridatribune.com. You can find Scott on Twitter at Tribune South. You can listen to any of our podcasts on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, or wherever you get your podcast.
All right, very good. Also, I just want to point out special thanks to some of our partners, Sideline Sports. I appear on some of their shows as well. You have Basket Bros and Pundit's Pundit. Of course, we do a doubleheader on Wednesday night with the Sports Exchange. So
and Chicks and Salsa.
Yeah, Chicks and Salsa. Proud of some of the partners we have on there, whether it's JB Ellis, Jacob Christner, Jennifer Matthews List, and the list goes on and on. So enjoy the working relationship we have now. I think I'll remember them all, but the ones I can communicate with on a consistent basis are not here. So once again, I want to thank everybody for joining us on this edition of Inside the Pigskin. And once again, I'll say for the final time, third time is even the charm like the other two were. We are dedicating this broadcast to Fred Ebling. Rest in peace, Pop. God love you, and we appreciate everything you've done to help make Candy and I and the rest of our beloved family better people.
One more thing, Scott. Let's thank everybody that's been participating in the chat. We appreciate everybody, whether from Will Vogel to Ralph Williams to Michael Arango. Thank you, everybody, for participating in the chat. We appreciate you.
All right. So on behalf of Candy Ebling, Rick Curdy, Travis Holmes, Mel Farr Jr., and now Matt Patricia is a bum / Jeremy B. Thank you very much for joining us on this edition of Inside the Pigskin. We will catch you the next time. Good night, everybody. Enjoy Super Bowl weekend. Bye-bye
Don't
now.
forget, if
Good
you
night.
subscribe, to like and share this with all the fans.
There he is. All right. Any last thing, Travis? I know you popped off. You there?
He's froze.
I'm here.
Oh, there he is. Okay.
All right. And our friend Travis Holmes. Thanks again, Travis, for being on the show.
Appreciate it.
All right. All right. Good night, everybody. Catch you on the next episode. Enjoy your Super Bowl weekend. Bye now.
Good night.